Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. In this video, I'm going to share my research and strategy for tonight's Monday Night Football Showdown contest between the Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wanted to mention real quick that a few people reached out to me last night during the Sunday Night Football game between the Packers and Chiefs and mentioned that they had seen my name, the Cowboy Fan 215, near the top of one of the contests that I was in. And for a moment, it was looking pretty good. But as we all know, showdown slates can change rapidly with one or two plays. And I found myself going from 175,000 to $75 within a couple plays. But that's how fantasy football goes. I ended up cashing, and I'm back today to do it again. Before I unpack tonight's game, I wanted to share my research, which has been updated to include the 5 showdown contests that DraftKings had yesterday, including the Green Bay Kansas City game. Through 51 showdown contests, the average winning score is 135.20 points. The average captain score is 44.84 points. As we all know, getting the captain spot right is half the battle, and if you don't get the captain spot right, you're not taking down the contest, no matter if it's the GPP, double up, head-to-head, whatever you're in. You need to get that right. This is why I spend a lot of time during my videos addressing the captain's position. So without further ado, these are how the captain's positions break down through those 51 slates. The underdog running back has been in the winning captain spot 11 times for 21.57%. The favorite quarterback has been in the winning lineup in the captain spot 10 times for 19.61%. The favorite running back has been in the captain's position 7 times in the winning lineup for 13.73%. The favorite wide receiver has also been in the winning captain spot 7 times for 13.73%. Underdog wide receiver has been in the captain spot 6 times on the winning lineup, 11.76%. The favorite defensive special team has been in the captain spot 4 times for 7.84%. The underdog quarterback has been in the captain's position 3 times for 5.82%. The underdog kicker has been in the captain's spot 2 times for 3.92%, and the underdog tight end has been in the captain's position 1 time for 1.96%. Now, I broke this down further just by position, and running backs have been in the winning lineup's captain's position more than any, 18 times, which is 35.29%. So a third of the showdown contests have had a running back, whether it was underdog or favorite. Quarterbacks have been in the winning lineup 13 times for 25.49%, and wide receivers have been in the winning lineup also 13 times for 25.49%. The captain has been on the winning team straight up 37 of the 51 showdown contests. Running backs are 15-3 straight up in the captain spot. Quarterbacks are 8-5 straight up in the captain spot. Wide receivers are 10-3 straight up, and defensive special teams are 4-0 straight up. So if you have one of them, are you building your lineup towards them actually winning the game straight up, not including point spread or any of that, but just winning the game outright? So you're probably wondering, what does all this mean in regards to tonight's game? It means we got to get the captain spot right to even have a chance. The way I feel about this game is Connor is going to be very chalky in the captain spot. He's $20,100. Everyone knows that Miami is the worst team in the league against the run. They're just horrible. Pittsburgh likes to run the ball with Connor. It's quite obvious that this could definitely be the way the game goes. If you're leaning towards that script, I would venture to say that 80% of the lineups are going to go with that script. And as I said, he could easily crush, But I believe tonight Miami is going to come to this game play. And they played a little bit better since Fitzpatrick's been put in the quarterback position. So for those of you who can't stomach the lineup that I'm going to give you here in a minute, Please hold on, because I did use an optimizer, and I'll explain all that to you. But this is how I'm going to build tonight's game. I'm gonna go with a different game script than just Connor crushes, and uh, I would imagine that a lot of people try to get Connor in the captain and Pittsburgh in the flex, and then build from there. If you do that, and I looked at it, it really limits your the way you can build your lineup. And I want to have a more balanced lineup, and I want to be different. I'm going to be with being contrarian tonight. This is the build that I've got for myself. If you like it, fine. You're welcome to use it. Put your own twist to it. But this is what I like. I like Fitzpatrick in the captain spot. I want my exposure to Connor. I want one of. If I have a quarterback in the captain's position, I always want at least two targets. One of my targets is going to be the tight end, and I'm going to tell you why. Pittsburgh is horrible against the tight ends position. They're ranked number 30 out of 32 NFL teams versus the tight end. In their last game against the Chargers, they beat the Chargers pretty bad, but in garbage time, Rivers ate them up with using Hunter Henry. He had 2 touchdowns. Fitzpatrick likes to use his tight end. I like his price and think he could be sneaky. And if Connor's crushing and the Dolphins are having to come back and put the ball, I don't think Miami's going to be able to put the ball on the ground and do much against Pittsburgh. So I believe they're going to have to do it through the air. Another flex position. I want another target to go with Fitzpatrick. So I'm going with Devontae Parker. Parker was targeted 10 times in their last game against Buffalo. So Fitzpatrick definitely likes him and the tight end. Another receiver, Preston Williams, he actually targeted him eight times. And it's possible to change this around to where you can get Parker and Williams, but I want the tight end in there with him. Next, I want Jalen Samuels to back up Connor. A few weeks ago in the Cincinnati game, I believe it was. Let's look here real quick. And it was a primetime game. Look at this game log here. Cincinnati. Yeah, he had 23.54 points. He had 10 carries for 26 yards and a rushing touchdown. And then he had an additional 8 receptions for another 57 yards for 23 fantasy points. And be careful if you're using Samuels tonight. He's got a questionable tag. He's coming off of a knee scope. He wasn't supposed to be back until early November. So he did practice in full all last week, but they may want to be careful with him. So obviously check the injury report, which should come out about 6:45 tonight, usually 90 minutes before the game. Make sure he's active if you're going to use him. And if you can't use him, then you can go down to Benny Snell, he's only 2,400, which is almost half as expensive as Samuels, which would allow you to fit someone else in. And lastly, I'm going to put one receiver for Pittsburgh. Xavier Howard should be back tonight. He should be matched up against Juju Smith-Schuster. Should be mentioned that when Howard was matched up against Keenan Allen with Phillip Rivers throwing him the ball, he pretty much shut down Keenan Allen. And even though this appears to be a lopsided game, Mason Rudolph is a rookie. So just keep that in mind, or he's in his second year, but he's obviously having to start because of Ben Roethlisberger being out. So just keep that in mind. But Rudolph does like to go to Johnson, and Johnson's been targeted quite a bit few weeks that Rudolph's been at quarterback. And look right here, this last, not the last game because Rudolph was actually out. That was Hodges' game. But in the Baltimore game, he targeted him 8 times. Cincinnati, he targeted him 6 times. So kind of like him, and it fits in. If Connor or Samuels, depending if they get down on the goal line, one of those two is probably going to try to punch it in. And in Rudolph, you have Deontay Johnson. If Xavier Howard's locked up on Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe Rudolph will go to Johnson. Left $1,000 on the table with this build. It probably looks sickening to some. And, you know, as I said, this is just the game theory I'm going to go with. I think Miami will have to throw a lot to either come back or stay in the game. And I have Fitzpatrick with 2 of his targets, bringing it back with the way that Pittsburgh wants to win the game, run the ball, and maybe to keep them honest, drop a couple passes or maybe a couple bombs in there to Deontay Johnson. So for those of you who could not stomach that build and are set on the Connor and running back, which the last 2 slates that I played, the Thursday night, I was set on Dalvin Cook, and he was obviously the right captain. Last night I was set on Aaron Jones at captain. Paid off. Obviously, I didn't have the right flex players in there. But this time I'm just going to change it up a little bit. But I did run it through an optimizer, and what I do is I run it for 150 lineups. As I said, I'm set the minimum exposures on the captain's position, and I just let it do its thing. I didn't even put any restrictions like quarterback has to have, if quarterback's in the captain spot, has to have 2 receivers, which is something that I usually do. And another thing I like to do is out of the two field goal kickers and 2 defenses, I normally only like to use 1 of the 4 kickers, especially home favorites offer a better floor. That's just my preference when I'm building these lineups. So I'll give you a minute, and now I'll show you what the optimizer did. And I believe this is probably what, as I mentioned, 80% of the people are going to do. Connor and the Connor and the captain. Snell in a flex position. This is kind of going with believing that Samuels may not be up to par, or it may not even be in the game. That's what I just mentioned. Fitzpatrick at quarterback, 8,400. Preston Williams, the rookie. Fitzpatrick's been targeting him a lot too. He's more of their deeper threat. Kyle Rudolph at quarterback. Mason Rudolph, I'm sorry. Kyle Rudolph, tight end from Minnesota. And when you build like that, you got 2,100, you got to go down here to the turds. Find the best one. Albert Wilson's going to be operating out of the slot. He's coming off of a hip injury. I believe he's only been targeted. Let's see the last game. Got 1 of 2 targets for 22 yards in Sunday's loss against the Bills. I think he's been targeted much at all this year. We had 6 targets against Washington. Scored 6.5 fantasy points. 6 targets, 5 receptions for 15 yards. So, as I said, when you have Connor up here in this captain, it really limits the way you can build. Like if I tried to build that other lineup that I had with Fitzpatrick going with Parker, because I believe Parker is his favorite target. He's a big target. I mean, now I'm definitely going to have to get Rudolph out of there. If I try to put Deontay Johnson in there, And if I wanted to get Gesicki, I think I could get Gesicki in there. So I'm leaning on basically the same lineup, but I had to put Snell in there instead of Samuels. If Samuels isn't playing, this is virtually the same lineup that I have, except for Connor being in the captain's position. And if he smashes, that would be good. But I can see a situation where, let's say that Samuels isn't playing and Pittsburgh gets up and dominates with their defense and running game, and second half they're giving some carries to Snell. Connor's already did his damage. I mean, if you wanted, I think this build right here is going to be really popular. Steelers, and if you do that, you are definitely not having Deontay Johnson. Now you're going back, going to somehow build something with, and you could get Snell back in there with Connor, Snell. That's a way you could do it if you were dead set. For me though, I'm just not dead set with Ben. I will probably have a couple lineups with Connor in the captain's position, but I don't do the MME 150 lineups. I do run the randomization on it with an optimizer, so I can just see the different builds, because manually building, I'm not going to see every type of combination. I go through and look at the combinations that I like based on what I believe, what game script I'm going to go with on the showdowns, and I try to go with a certain game script how I believe the game's going to go. If you get it right, like I got it right last night, except for the pieces in the flex were a little bit off. Actually, as I mentioned before, if Kelsey had caught that ball in the end zone, I'd probably have a bigger smile than I have today. But it didn't happen. So what I want to say is, be creative, differentiate yourself. A lot of these showdowns, depending on what contest you're in, a lot of them have been having the winners. Now, last night's winner it was two people that split 100, or each of them had 175,000. But I did see the Thursday night game, I believe, had like 400 winners tied for first place, and 1,700 is better than no 100. But I'm going to take one of these down, and one of these days I will do it. I've never won one of these. I've placed and obviously cashed, but I want to win one of these. And tonight, I think, is my chance of doing that, is to be different. So there you have it. I hope you got some value out of this information. Use it how you like. Use my lineup, adjust my lineup. I would encourage you to put your own, if you like my lineup, I would encourage you to put your own spin on it, And I ask you, I encourage you to please drop any comments or opinions below. If you would share, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, it really helps me out. I'll be back tomorrow to recap week 8. I hope to hear that some of you had a little bit of luck on Sunday. I'll be addressing that tomorrow. But have fun tonight. Don't forget the flash draft that DraftKings has. It's the in-game showdown that they have. It's pretty neat if you're following the game. If you're just checking in every now and then, I wouldn't encourage it, but it's something to do while you're watching the game. So with that, I'm going to go. I'll see you tomorrow. My name is Ty Patton. This is All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. Have a good evening.